Hello and welcome. It's 4 p.m. here in South Korea and you're watching Arirang News. I'm Kwon Jang-ho and it's good to have you with us. Satellite pictures are showing that North Korea has started to dismantle some of its nuclear facilities. It's one of the first signs that Pyongyang plans to carry out its promises of denuclearization that it made to South Korea and the US. It is an important and welcome development, but it's also only the first step. Questions remain, such as how important are those facilities to the North's nuclear program, how many more are out there, and now that Pyongyang has shown its good faith, will it start to make stronger demands of its own? We look at those issues with an expert later in the show, but first we start with the latest headlines at this hour with Devin Whiting at the News Centre. Devin?
Hi, Jong-un. As we've been reporting, a dam collapsed Tuesday in Laos, killing an unknown number of people and leaving thousands homeless. Teams are searching for hundreds of others who've gone missing. The dam was built by a joint venture including a South Korean company, which says it's still not clear whether the dam broke or overflowed. Kim Yo-sun reports.
Hundreds of people are reported missing in southern Laos after a hydropower dam which was under construction collapsed Monday evening, leading to flash floods that swept away 6 nearby villages. The Sepian Senam-noi hydropower plant in Atapu province in southeast of the country was being built by a joint venture comprising South Korea's SK Engineering and Construction and its partners from Laos and Thailand, and was expected to go into full operation next year. Several people have been reported dead, while over 6,000 have been displaced. While initial media reports say one of the dams under construction collapsed, the Korean builder said it's checking to see whether the dam actually broke or if it was swept over by heavy rainfall that hit the region recently.
We've seen some really heavy rainfall here recently. One of the 5 auxiliary dams failed due to a massive buildup of rainwater.
SKENC says it's supporting the local government's rescue operations by establishing a crisis management team to respond quickly to the disaster and dispatching Thailand-based helicopters to rescue stranded people. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
With the death toll in Laos rising to at least 70 and hundreds of people unaccounted for, South Korean President Moon Jae-in has ordered an emergency relief team to go and help. Presidential Office spokesperson Kim Il-kyung said Wednesday that as the authorities investigate the cause of the accident, the government understands it needs to take action, the dam having been built in part by South Korean firms. Details of the measures will be discussed at a meeting later in the day with vice minister-level officials from relevant agencies. All Koreans in the area of the dam were reportedly evacuated safely. But President Moon asked officials with those companies to keep their employees' families back here in Korea informed. Meanwhile, President Moon has welcomed what are believed to be signs of North Korea dismantling its missile engine and launch test sites as good developments. He made the remarks to the new U.S. ambassador to South Korea, Harry Harris, who presented his credentials to the South Korean leader this morning. President Moon stressed that a strong South Korea-U.S. alliance is now thus more important than ever to realizing their common goal of a nuclear-free Korean peninsula, and that he expects Ambassador Harris to play a great role. Harris said the U.S. is also looking forward to the dismantling of the missile test sites and the return of the remains of U.S. soldiers killed in the Korean War, which he said will be a token of sincerity from the North that it will honor its leader Kim Jong-un's agreement with President Trump. This was the first meeting between the new U.S. ambassador and the South Korean president since Harris, a retired Navy admiral, came to fill the post that had been vacant since his predecessor Mark Lippert's term ended in January 2017. Another of those signs that the North is dismantling its missile-related sites. Broadcaster VOA reports that satellite images from a U.S.-based Earth imaging company, Planet, show the North has torn down a facility used to assemble parts for the regime's ICBMs. The facility had been in a car factory in the northwestern city of Pyongsong. It was still in one piece until late last month, but in pictures taken last Friday, it had disappeared. The same facility, though, has been dismantled and rebuilt before, and it took only a couple of days to do, so it might not be gone for good. This report comes just a few days after North Korea monitoring website 38 North released satellite pictures appearing to show the North has also dismantled a satellite launching station in the country's northwest. The two Koreas are getting ready to hold reunions next month for people from South and North who have relatives on the other side. Today, they exchanged lists confirming whether those people are still alive as they settle on who's going to attend. The reunions are scheduled to be held in the North for a week in mid-August, with the final list to be exchanged early next month. Seoul's Unification Ministry says that today's exchange went as planned and North Korea made no extra demands. There have been concerns after North Korea's propaganda websites hinted that the family reunions could be in jeopardy if Seoul doesn't send back the North Korean restaurant workers that defected to the South in 2016. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has been unusually busy in recent weeks inspecting all kinds of facilities around the country, apparently in a public shift in focus to the North's economy. Yesterday, he was reported to have visited a tree nursery, and today, Pyongyang's state media said he gave field guidance at a food processing factory. He reportedly praised the officials and workers there for creating a modern process capable of mass production and encouraged them to produce more and better tasting food to improve people's diets. In his recent string of tours to economy-related sites, Kim Jong-un has visited construction sites, bag factories, tree nurseries, and fish farms. Consumer confidence here in South Korea has plunged this month due largely to concerns about the escalating trade war between Washington and Beijing and signs of an economic slowdown here. Our Kim Hae-sung reports.
South Korea's consumer sentiment in July fell by the steepest margin in 20 months to record an index score of 101. That's down 4.5 points from June. It's also the lowest figure since April 2017 when the country was rattled by a corruption scandal that eventually brought down the former Park Geun-hye administration. The Bank of Korea attributed the slide to the escalating trade spat between the U.S. and China and to Korea's sluggish job growth. The fight between Korea's top two trading partners and the growing protectionism between the U.S. and the EU are increasing the downside risk to Korea's export-driven economy. Sluggish employment figures added to concerns of a possible economic downturn, hurting consumer sentiment. Between January and June, a monthly average of 142,000 new jobs were added, the slowest growth since the 2008 global financial crisis.
The Consumer Sentiment Index for July is now getting close to 100, the threshold that separates optimism from pessimism. The index is a leading indicator of future consumption. The fact that all of its sub-indices fell means domestic consumption in the latter half of this year is likely to slow down. Bad news for the Korean economy that's already struggling from export uncertainties and slowing investment.
The sub-index for households' economic outlook fell 9 points to 87, and the sub-index on current economic conditions fell 7 points. Despite the government's efforts to create jobs and boost wages, outlook on job opportunity dropped 6 points to 87, the slowest figure since April 2017. The expected inflation rate for the following year stood at the same in June at 2.6%. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
I'm Devin Whiting, and those are this hour's news headlines.
US President Donald Trump is patting himself on the back after reports that North Korea is tearing down one of its key missile sites. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also called the development consistent with recent commitments made by Pyongyang. Lee Seung-jae reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump has welcomed reports that North Korea has started to dismantle a key missile testing site in line with a pledge North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had made at their historic summit in Singapore last month. Speaking at an event in Missouri on Tuesday, President Trump hailed a recent report from 38 North, a U.S.-based website analyzing satellite imagery of the North, which assessed that Pyongyang has begun taking apart facilities at its Seohae satellite launching station. The report comes as progress appeared sluggish on plans to implement a nuclear deal reached by the two leaders in their meeting last month. Trump had vehemently denied reports he was frustrated with the pace of the negotiations, tweeting on Monday that he was very happy with how they were going. President Trump also voiced hope that North Korea will deliver on its promise to return the remains of American soldiers killed in the North during the Korean War. U.S. and North Korea officials have held several meetings to discuss the return of the remains, with some media outlets reporting the first group will be delivered on Friday. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also praised the latest report of North Korea's missile test site dismantlement after his meeting with his Australian counterpart in California, saying it's consistent with the commitment Pyongyang made in Singapore.
So we've seen the open press reporting about the missile engine test site. It'd be entirely consistent with the commitment that Chairman Kim made to President Trump when the two of them were in Singapore together, made that commitment to them orally.
When asked what further steps were needed by North Korea, the top U.S. diplomat stated the North needs to completely, fully denuclearize, as that's what Kim Jong-un committed to. The latest report is welcoming news for both the U.S. and South Korea, as the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula appears that little more likely. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, looking at these latest developments, with us today is Dr. Bong Young-sik from the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. It's great to have you with us again, Professor.
Nice to be here.
Now, there are reports that North Korea have begun dismantling its nuclear facilities. The nuclear facility that was named was the Seohae Satellite Launching Station. Can you tell us more about the station?
North Korea has 6 missile test sites. 2 of them are especially important. This Dongchangli Seohae Satellite Launch Station is the place where so-called Baekdu engine, the intercontinental ballistic missile engine, was tested successfully. So it is believed that the engine tested here in Dongchangli site was used for the Hwasong-15, the ICBM supposedly capable of reaching the United States territory. So dismantling this site means that North Korea does not need to put its ICBM engines to further test, and it might have already acquired the capability to mass produce ICBMs if necessary. But at the same time, this is, as Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, said, that consistent with the commitment that Mr. Kim Jong-un made in his meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump in Singapore.
So you're saying this facility is not necessarily that important for North Korea's nuclear program anymore?
No, I'd like to just repeat what was said by a high-ranked government official in South Korea, that this is better than no action was made by North Korea. But as President Donald Trump emphasizes, that denuclearization of North Korea is such a long and turbulent process. So this is just an important first step, but first step nonetheless. And it is regrettable that North Korean authority, just like the previous case when it closed down the Punggye nuclear test site, refused to invite outside experts for full verification of the effect of this dismantlement. So we are still not 100% clear whether this satellite launching station has been permanently closed down, or it is just closed temporarily, because it is true that the rail-mounted structure and the rocket engine test stand have been eliminated, but we are still waiting for the result of dismantling the main assembly building, where you assemble missile parts, engine parts, and the gantry tower and the fuel bunkers. So if all remaining important structures will be dismantled, then we can say that the missile test site has been completely dismantled.
Pompeo said himself that he will continue to push for to allow North Korea to allow inspectors into North Korea to verify themselves whether the launch site has been dismantled or not. But as you said, in the past, they haven't done that recently. The Punggye nuclear test site that they showed to the press, but not to nuclear inspectors. Do you think North Korea will change their attitudes at any point?
Well, we have to wait and see. It does not help North Korea to build credibility in international society, especially among the nuclear experts and policymakers, if they continue to refuse to bring in outside experts to verify that they have fulfilled their commitment with no doubt. I guess the North Korean authority is still preoccupied with the idea to move along according to its own schedule and calendar. And they seem to be very afraid of letting verification even once. I guess once it accepts the outside investigation or verification, then it will lead to another demand and another demand for fuller and wider verification demands by the United States. And then North Korea's intention to keep its nuclear cards and missile cards close to its chest until it received a reliable security guarantee and massive economic assistance. It will just delay the process of denuclearization. That plan cannot be completed. So is it a trade-off between North Korea accepting verification to build momentum of negotiation and building trust, and North Korea's obsession with keeping its strategic cards available?
So if North Korea really has started dismantling this nuclear facility, and we also heard that there's a second facility that they might be dismantling, what happens next? Do North Korea now say, look, we've shown good faith, what are you going to do for us? Is that the card they're going to play? Or do you think they have to continue showing that they're ready to dismantle more of its nuclear test sites?
North Korean authority already made a point. In the third meeting with Secretary Mike Pompeo, Kim Yong-chul insisted that we already made all our promises. It is your turn, United States' turn to show your commitment by taking additional action. And Mike Pompeo said that we canceled all these regular joint military exercises with the South Korean military, but Kim Yong-chul said that that is not a full commitment because those actions are quickly reversible. You can just bring in your strategic assets to the Korean Peninsula at any time. So it is not like you are getting rid of even one gun. That's what Kim Yong-chul said. So North Korea insists that it is United States' turn to move along with the commitment exchanged by two leaders in the Singapore summit meeting. So although it is highly likely for North Korea to return like the 50 to 55 remains of the US soldiers who died during the Korean War in celebration of the signing of the Armistice Agreement in 1953, which is 27th of this month. I guess after that, North Korea is going to up the demand to the Trump administration to provide some discernible actions in fulfillment of its promise to give North Korea a security guarantee.
Well, what does that look like? What are North Korea's demands? Is it the peace treaty or the end of the declaration of the Korean War, at least, that North Korea are looking for? Is that what they want, or is that too much to ask for right away, do you think?
Well, you're absolutely correct. That's the crown jewel, at least for now, for North Korean authority. It attempts to get that crown jewel from Trump administration. But there are two reasons why Trump administration is reluctant to give that a gift to North Korea. One, when United States joins the other three parties to declare the official end of the Korean War, then military operations will be taken off the table. Trump administration is increasingly concerned about potential weakening of existing economic sanctions as China, Russia, and even South Korea may slowly, departing from the economic sanctions. Then United States wants to keep all options on the table so that even in the absence of the impact of economic sanctions, it can continue to pressure North Korea for denuclearization. But once you declare the war is over, you can hardly justify your choice for military operation. Other countries will not really accept or support the U.S. decision for the use of force to pressure North Korea. So that explains why Washington remains very reluctant to join the declaration of the end of the Korean War.
Speaking of sanctions, the US wants to keep putting pressure on North Korea as a card to denuclearize. But there are already reports that saying actually North Korea is already getting around them, possibly China and Russia helping them. For example, fuel prices at gas stations in North Korea apparently have been going down for the last few months. how do we explain that? Are North Korea really getting around sanctions, or is there some other explanation?
Well, I mean, in our class in Economics 101, you are supposed to be able to calculate the market price by, checking the demand line and supply line, right? But North Korean system cannot be explained in the market mechanism alone, because if the state, in response to harsh economic sanctions, the cutoff of oil import, stop the circulation of oil in the domestic market, then the oil price is going to stay the same, or it can even goes down, because people are not allowed to use, oil. So you cannot read too much out of this decline of oil price in North Korean economy. And North Korean economy, even if economic sanctions might be more porous than we anticipated them, North Korean economy cannot resuscitate itself without getting massive economic assistance from outside and escape from the existing economic sanctions entirely. Think about it. 5 major items of North Korean export are banned: coal, and the minerals, and the textile products, and the labor, and the fishery products. So North Korea may get around and get away here and there, but they only maintain the very harsh current conditions. It doesn't help North Korean economy to go back to the promising state. North Korean economy recorded minus 3.5% as an annual growth rate for last year, 2017. That was before economic sanctions, most of the harsh economic sanctions were in place. So what kind of economic conditions do we expect to be in this year, 2018? And if economic sanctions remain in place, then North Korean economy will be even worse than 2017 in the next year, 2019. So the problem for Kim Jong-un regime is far bigger, far more urgent. North Korean economy has to receive a major breakthrough, overcoming economic sanctions entirely.
Earlier, you mentioned about the return of the remains of the US soldiers that were killed in the Korean War. That is supposed to expected to happen, if on schedule, this Friday on the 27th of July, the anniversary of the armistice agreement of the Korean War. Now, but there does seem to be some issues still that haven't been ironed out. There are reports that saying North Korea are asking for monetary compensation, again this time, like they did previously. Do you think the return of the remains will actually go ahead this week?
Well, I remain optimistic that the remains will be returned to the United States according to the original schedule, because the report about North Korea demanding financial compensation is not consistent. It is different by different media. Some media report that North Koreans did not ask for any monetary compensation this time. I guess this is a strategic decision by the top leadership to show genuine good gesture toward Washington. So we have to look into the veracity of reports with regard to the North Korea demand for monetary compensation. And even if North Koreans are making monetary compensation, it has been the tradition of the United States to provide very handsome financial compensation for the labor and service by North Koreans. The average money the United States government paid North Korean authority per remain of the U.S. soldier is 50,000 US dollars. So we are expecting 50 to 55 remains to be returned this time. So you're talking about the multi-million dollars paid by the United States. But United States remain willing, very willing to help the return of the fallen, heroes back home. So money is not a real issue. The issue is a potential violation of the United Nations Security Council resolution, which prohibits transfer of so-called bulk cash to the North Korean authority. It's UN Security Council resolution number 2094. So if the United States Security Council expert committee will make an exception to this time, then United States government will be happy to pay the monetary compensation for North Korea.
Well, we'll have to see what happens this Friday. Thank you for coming in, Doctor, and we'll see you next time as well.
You're welcome.
That concludes our show for today. Hope you can join us again next time for more insights and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Goodbye.